Good morning.
Morning.
We'll call the meeting to order on a nice snowy day, which is welcome in the typical icebox of the nation. The first item is to approve the agenda. That's in front of you. Are there any additions, deletions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right. Do we have a motion and a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. The next item is the minutes, to approve the minutes from February 26th. They are, you have those in your packet. Are they, do you have any deletions, corrections, additions?
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner McIntyre
I'll second.
and a second from Treasurer Kaler. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. Next item is the Treasurer's report. Treasurer Kaler.
All right, yeah, first I'll do the KEDA financials itself. There are no transfers and everything looked in order again, so I recommend approving the financials for KEDA.
Any questions? Discussion? All those in favor of approving the KEDA Treasurer's report, please say aye.
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 Thank you. You joined us. Hi, Roger.
I did. I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And welcome, Randy Tom. Thank you. And Laurel Beeger. Welcome, Laurel. Did we get a vote on that?
We did.
All right. Continue, please.
And now next, cold weather testing, to say there's no transfers and everything seemed in order, and I would recommend accepting the financials.
I'll move.
Cold weather.
All right, this cold weather testing.
I can add one thing. We hadn't received the Minnesota power bill yet, so that is not listed on here. So if we can just, when it comes in, pay it as it comes together.
Would that be part of your motion?
Yeah, oh, yes.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor of the cold weather testing Treasurer's report, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is the draft audit. You have a copy of that also, and it's the schedule of findings and responses. As you will see, the two management findings, financial findings, are the same that has been for several years, and that is the segregation of duties and the lack of control over financial reporting process. That is because, and it states here, that's because of the small management group we have, the small administration group. We only have 2 people, and so for it to be double-checked constantly by other financial people in the organization is really not possible. However, that does require, as the findings say, diligence in checking the financial reports and the segregation of duties. So primarily that falls to our treasurer and the chair with the segregation of duties and the treasurer with the financial reporting process. So we'll check on you constantly.
Well, please do.
And
I'm
I
thinking
know
I'm thinking of rescinding my acceptance right now of the position. No.
and I know that all of you will continue to check on me. So
Mr. Chair, if I could,
do we have any comments? Yes.
couple things. Yeah, you could almost cut and paste that response.
I know.
And as we've talked to our auditors and others, they say it's just a fact of life in smaller organizations. You just don't have the ability to segregate duties to the extent that larger organizations can. And given the size of our budget, I reached out to the auditor's office because not only it's required, but it's a sizable line item for us to go through an annual audit. And I just asked her, I said, what is the requirement statutorily for us to meet the threshold of having to have one? And she said, it does go up. Your total revenues have to be anything over $275,000 you're required. But that does fluctuate according to inflation, cost of living, those kinds of things. But I had a good conversation with her, though. She said, no, a lot of smaller organizations like yours, she goes, are faced with that. And I said, could we go to every other year at some point? And she goes, you can if you don't hit that threshold. But she said what they found out with other organizations is they don't like, audit groups don't like, firms don't like to do it every other. They want to make sure that there's, they've got you lined up year after year. And then to find another auditor, if your firm leaves you, it's sometimes more expensive and time consuming because you have to, just the need for more information. So anyway, it was a good conversation, but I just wanted to check on that. And with our cold weather revenues, we surpassed that 275 threshold. But just more of a means to say, God, can we save on an audit? You've been with the ARDC for a long time. That audit cost is getting in. I know the city and county, the cost of those is even though you're pretty consistent in what you're providing. Anyway, I just share that with the group.
Yes, and just what I can tell you from the recent audit we had at the Rainy River College Foundation, they come up with there's new rules every year. And we only do audits there, I think, every 3 years. And so this year we had a new auditor. Before we've had, we used Miller McDonald, and before we had, we started that with Dave Cronin. And so we had a new auditor, and she was very inexperienced. I don't know how much time I spent on the phone with her, and because I'm the treasurer, and our chair spent a lot of time with her, and consequently, so did our director, which, what they do is just keep calling with questions. So, and they want this form and that form and whatever. And so a lot of times, and they don't come on site, but a lot of times you end up with your staff doing most of their work. And then the bill this year, which was because she was new, spent a lot of time, was $16,000. So, and I said to her, well, we had one of the first fundraisers we had, and we thought it was really successful. and we raised about $12,000. We wouldn't even be in existence if you know. Well, yeah, and then I talked with one of the partners from the firm. He just said, well, it's time. I said, yeah, but we paid for to train your employee. You know, that. Well, so what are you going to do?
Wow.
But a lot of times, I think to negotiate ahead of time when you hire an auditing firm as to what the potential cost would be, and they'll tell you, you know, they'll tell you that, well, the potential cost is how much time we have to put in. Well, yeah, that makes sense. But it's still a matter of how much money. And we have a substantial endowment to manage, and there could be, there could be some malfeasance in that. So anyhow, just aside to let you know about audits.
I'll have to check out someone else the next time around.
Absolutely.
The
Except that
the city one or
Training
the,
them too.
the
except
city
that
one or the county one, they're pretty on the ball.
yeah,
The people from Thief River.
and except that you need to negotiate that ahead of time, because you get a new auditor and then you go through the whole thing again, and they, believe me, they charge you, by the hour. I don't know how many $100, but $16,000 would have been, it would have been a substantial hourly charge. Anyhow, so thank you for that information. Do we need to approve the audit findings? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Roach.
Second.
And a second from from Mayor Dill. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is Director's Report, Director Nevenitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And happy St. Patty's Day. First item, I want to talk about the Foreign Trade Zone. I participated in the call with 3 representatives from a regional pharmaceutical company that was interested in the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone. They've been there a long time, and pharmaceutical companies actually are big users of FTZs, and they import materials from China, Italy, and India. And they had some good questions, and I actually learned a lot. I also had a colleague from Minneapolis, FTZ, on because they've got a lot more history and more customers than we do, and he was helpful in answering some questions. But they were essentially early on in the process of saying, is there benefit to this? Which you want companies to go through the process, and before you get a consultant, because these consultants are fairly expensive. And a good consultant, a good group will say, given what you guys, how you operate and your supply chain and what it got, the FTZ program doesn't make sense for you right at this time. But I want them to go through the process, and it's also established a relationship with this company who I've been trying to develop a relationship with. So we'll see where that goes. But they are in our regional jurisdiction, so if they do enter the zones program, we would be the administrator. We would get a small annual fee like we do with DigiKey. Unfortunately, well, I don't know where it leads, but if they do decide, it would be in their facility, so it wouldn't create any direct jobs here in Cooch. But nonetheless, we have another user, which in and of itself is I think valuable. And again, anytime you can develop a relationship with these regional companies, you don't know where that goes. And so we'll keep you posted on that.
Is there a standard fee that we charge? Or,
Yeah. As the grantee, we charge every user, I believe, $6,000 annually. Is that for admin? And yeah, we just have to complete an annual report, and they have to complete their numbers. And but that a consultant helped us. We looked at what other more active, larger zones charge, and that's right in the ballpark. And for what we do to support their efforts, it was mostly just to recoup the costs of creating the zone here in Koochiching. We had some costs associated with that. So,
and is that flexible?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is, and yeah, but we looked at Duluth and other smaller ones in our area. But and related to that, the new administration has initiated these tariffs, and they've got a lot of people's attention, including our neighbors to the north. But it's also generated a lot of interest in foreign trade zones, and there's been a number of publications I've been kind of monitoring that are writing about how FTZs can help offset some of the tariff uncertainty or costs for certain companies. So there again, we'll keep an eye on that. That might be another opportunity for companies that have either not participated in the past or all of a sudden now it becomes forefront for them. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It'll be interesting to see too how the tariffs affect us here on the border with Canada. I know there's already been some pretty drastic steps taken both sides, and I don't know long term what that means for us here, but I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on how it will affect tourists at all, if at all, or it's mostly cross-border business.
I think currency has a bigger problem or a bigger impact than the tariffs being that it's so low. Was it 63 cents or 65 cents? That makes a lot more difference, I would think, than the tariff on a few goods.
Yeah, and I'd add to that historically Canada has boomed with tourism as their dollar weakens, and they do have a very weak dollar right now. I think we're at $1.45-ish, but in times of turmoil, we've greatly benefited locally and around the park, Voyagers Park, because people have tended to keep their pocketbooks closer to home. So I think that the mayor of Fort Francis keeps reaching out, and obviously he's concerned, and I think everyone's concerned, but other than some speculation what the effects are going to be, I don't think the phone's not ringing off the hook because nothing's happened yet. So, but if something does happen, what's it going to be?
I got a call from NPR in the Twin Cities right away after the first announcement of the tariffs was, and they wanted to know how it would affect the cross-border, how it would affect our economy. And I said, obviously, the retail economy is going to be affected. There's just no... And so, anyhow, he had some questions, and I don't know how I answered them necessarily, but someone called me from Florida and said, you did a good job. It was Jim Dingle. And so, a lot of, quite a few people do listen to NPR News, or NPR if you're in another state. But so anyhow, continue.
Well, and I know, Mayor, you were interviewed with the Wall Street Journal did a piece, and they interviewed a number of business owners and both sides of Fort Francis, and I should have shared that article. I think it was going around. I think if you haven't seen that, I've got a copy if you'd like a copy.
Yeah, and I think it was when they fished out the story, I think there was a bigger emotional component to the story. This has happened because we don't know what the effects have been yet from this is changing by the day.
Right.
Is this going to affect forest products? Well, if it does, that could mean big problems for International Falls, and a multitude of other things. So just kind of a wait and see, and hopefully some of these things work themselves out.
Yeah, I think the uncertainty is probably more stressful than the actual. We don't know what's going to happen, but you kind of always think of the worst. How it's going to affect. So
There's no shortage of speculation. Which,
yeah,
doesn't help. A couple other items I just want to mention. In this school reuse, I attended the county board meeting, and the issue came up from the school board or from some of the members. It's like, what's going to happen? You're going to stop heating the building as of April 30th, I believe. And so there was thought of creating a committee of stakeholders and really giving it one, focused effort to try to find a reuse or come up with some ideas on reuse. And so I agreed to attend a North Home or a school board meeting in North Home this Wednesday. Mike, I believe you're going to attend as well, and I think Commissioner Shogun will be there as well. See if there's any, rather than just close the book. There's consensus that it's got too many positives to without giving it a real. And that's the thing. I mean, trying to buy some time to come up with some ideas, because it is challenging to find a reuse for that building of that size and that location. But I think it's worthy of at least some additional effort. So I don't know if you had any thoughts, Mike, on commissioners.
I've been able to tour the building 3 or 4 times in the last couple of months. Some of the rooms look like people just got up just before I got there and left. Books are open, everything's there. The gymnasium looks brand new, as does the kitchen. It's the roof on it's 2 years old. There's a couple of spots that I know that they have to be repaired, but otherwise the school looks like it's extremely clean, usable. Over 50 acres of land, an arena so that the county board can you can play out there instead of at the arena here. I dropped the first puck there. Yeah, Mighty Ducks built that place. And there's a couple other storage buildings, including one big enough to store buses and so forth. And as hard and as it is geographics, for some reason I can't get past the idea that it's in a perfect spot. There's got to be some interest in where is this at. I know that, okay, it's a long way to get to work and this and that, but it's absolutely a perfect spot. And the building's in good shape, so we're gonna kick the can and see what can happen. It'd be a shame if it got torn down, especially in the state it's in now. And, I remember the day that Irvin Anderson got funding from both the North Home and Indus School on the same day. He was up in the air happy, and they both got brand new schools. And the other thing about the Indus School is it turned out some great taxpayers, and continued to do that for years. Took some children that may have had some issues elsewhere and turned them. So it's kind of a shame, and it's just not the Indus area. It's a much bigger footprint. There were 35 employees that came from all over. So, we're gonna give it a chance, just simply because of the shape of the school right now and what it is.
Okay.
I think it needs, more due diligence, especially from the North Home School Board, to, you know, try to push it as a business spot or a different option for it. They did one little bid letting for 2 weeks, and that's all they've done with it. It just seems like they didn't, you know, have their ducks in a row when they were trying to close it down.
And I'm going to carry that message, your message, Wednesday evening. It's because it's just a working group. There will be no decisions made, but I'm going to carry that message. So, thank you.
Yeah, they didn't receive any takers on the bid package, but they held it in December, where it's kind of hard even to get around and give it a good look. So yeah, it just timing was not, and the effort was not there. So we'll see what happens. Report back, but
And if I may, I just into school, I graduated in Orr in 2008, and the school was gone 3-4 years later, along with Cook, and they combined. And so, just thinking about the future, if we go through more of this with the demographics that you know, they're pretty. It's really scary to look at what those demographics point to in 20 years. So without stirring up too much controversy or being accusational, you know, this is an issue that has really manifested itself all across rural Minnesota, that a school district builds the dream school, and we turn out all these hopefully good tax-paying kids, and then the enrollment declines, and then we don't have a use for the building, and it becomes a hot potato. Pretty soon somebody ends up with it, usually the county, and they go to the legislature and try and figure out, you know, how is this all going to work? So it probably seems so simple to talk about, but, you know, it is all about the kids until we don't have enough kids to support it. So I hope something works out and the path of this can change just a little bit, that's being shared for everyone's sake.
We don't anticipate it being an easy thing to do, but I just can't get it out of my mind what a fine place it is and what a great spot. So we're going to kick the can, as we said, and take a look around, and might come back for some help.
thank you.
Continue.
Yeah, just and then the city of International Falls hired a firm to do a site evaluation for 3 different sites for 3 different kind of approaches to housing within the city limits, and they convened a group to look at some of the sites and some of the thoughts around what housing might work there. And so I was part of a group that met with them and talked through some of the various options that they had. And there are 3 pretty distinct different types of housing. And I think the consensus of the group was the best, highest value would be the area by Crabtree and then Shorewood there. The Petersons have some property, and they were there as well and willing to develop it. They looked at developing it several years ago, and that was one. And then there's one on 9th Street
In that area.
In that area.
9th Street area.
inner city area, and then another area out by the
Right over here.
south,
By the water
by,
tower.
yeah, by the water
I'd say.
tower. With-
Where? What? The second area?
By the South Falls Apartments, the water tower out there. There's
sure.
some tax forfeited property. And so anyway, and then they had a public meeting, I know, where they invited some public input. I didn't attend that, but I think Mayor, you were there, or Pete, were you there?
We were both there.
Okay, yeah.
We had there were some people showed up,
Yeah.
a few, and put their stickers on what they thought, and it was kind of even with that group, I would say. But and just and these are different type. The 3 different locations are different types of homes.
Yeah.
You have like the smaller one, not tiny homes, smaller homes in the more central part of town, cut the lot size and whatnot. Then over here by the water tower, that area, 4th Avenue, east area is more of a single level like modular homes, not trailer homes, but like Stemberg, those type of homes they put, and then the Peters, so they develop there maybe a little more market rate, whether that would be condos. That's up to the developers.
Right.
And the big push for this, was like I said before, if you don't remember, is then hopefully if we have a plan where we're looking to develop a site, we can get, there's some state money to help pay for the infrastructure that goes in, which is very big nowadays, with developers, especially in an area like ours, that's one thing they don't have to take care of. So I was encouraged by the conversations I had with people that were there.
Well, I think wetland mitigation is holding quite a bit up, and if we could get the DNR to give us a waiver for the
Cooch County,
for the south end of town, from downtown out toward Brown's Corner, that whole swath through there. If we could get some sort of waiver, and being that we have so much wetland in our county already, to be able to fill in or buy credits for very reasonable price to be able to develop, because there's lots of stuff south of Keenan Drive that would be a good housing area, I think.
In all rural communities have the challenges of the economics of housing, and it's an issue everywhere. But then on top of that, we're handcuffed by the wetlands piece, which I know the Petersons ran into on the back end of Shorewood there. But that's close to the river. It's already an established residential area, we're hearing from all the housing advocates that you need all the above types of housing. So I think that's a good approach, at least.
And then I'll come how many times, and we know with the economic development, right, we've all heard you got to have homes for the people to live if you're fortunate enough to get some business to come to, and then it all works together. I know sometimes, but what comes first, right? There's that question too. But it's hard if you don't have places to live. But.
Well, that's a nice transition to my last point here, my last thought. I sat in on I've really been intrigued with demographics and what's happening around the state with migration, and I shared some of that last meeting. But Center for Rural Policy and Development had a webinar last week, and over 400 people sat in on it. It was basically the interconnected rural-urban conversations, and they were talking about migration. And we all know the metro is anticipated to continue to grow, and the exurbs now, those smaller, they're not even third-ring suburbs, they're beyond that, are continue to grow. But some communities are experiencing some migration from immigrants, especially in the ag areas. And so the discussion really was about how do you attract, and then how do you position yourselves to welcome immigrants or people from outside the area to your communities. And so there were some really good ideas and some thoughts and some practical stuff that communities are doing. But then there was a certain group, and we're seeing that, of people that live in the city or have lived in the city, and for whatever reasons they want to move to a small community. And so there was some discussion around that as well. And I think that's kind of where we fall, given our distance from Minneapolis. I mean, and they talked about this. A lot of people do this, and I know people have done that. They draw a circle. We'll go 180 miles from the Twin Cities, as far as we'll go, and then they'll start looking within. And we got to be north, And so they go through that process. And so, as you say, Pete, there's a lot around that. You got to have housing. You got to have amenities. You got to have all of the things that attract people. Education, healthcare. We always talk about these things being interconnected, and they really are. But the good news was that some of these communities are experiencing some in-migration from different sources. And of course, I know that like in Worthington My sister lived in Wyndham for a time. They have egg processing down there, and they have a lot of Hispanic people there. It puts a lot of stress on schools because they have to, language. You have to hire Spanish-speaking people. But it comes. It's none of this is easy, but it's encouraging that at least it's as we look at our shrinking demographic. And I don't know, developing some strategies about how to, everybody's in the same game. We're trying to attract people from outside to come here and live here. And of course, you have to have jobs to support them. So, anyway, I tried to bring all that together with that. And the Center for Rural Policy and Development has a great website. They've got a lot of really useful information and studies, and it's primarily academics, but it's a lot of community involvement too. So. And with that, I will
comment on that. Several years ago, ARDC and Northspan had a program called Welcome Back. And what it is that, and you know this because if you talk with people that are raised in a small town area like International Falls, they go away, maybe with their career, their work, but if they can retire, a lot of them will come back. And of course, they probably have new expectations of what they want in their community. That the advantages and and of course the women always say shopping or something. I shouldn't say that, pretty sexist. But it was a pretty successful program. United Healthcare that was here is one of the results of that, and I was involved in that anyhow. But that's an opportunity and a market for people, but you have to have housing. You have to have the amenities that, just as he said, and first thing, of course, it's housing, but it's also health care, and that's important. So, but the one thing that really helped that was online work. People could work from home. They didn't have to be in the office in the Twin Cities, and that still exists. It was expanded, of course, during COVID, but that was, and that's why it's so important to have those kind of services available online and Wi-Fi. All right, just a comment.
Well, good, yeah.
Any questions We'll move on to city, county, out county updates. And this time we'll start with the end of the Rainbow resident.
Evidently, the month of March is the quietest month there is in Koochiching County. Both North Home and Big Falls are talking about not much done this month. The big news in Little Fork is that the cafe closed. Oh no! Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that working there a couple weeks ago.
It's for sale, and it's passed on in other hands before, so it's for sale again. And of course, naturally, they want to see the cafe open. It just brings people into town from the outskirts and so forth. And I suppose most of the month I and Paul talked about as far as the out county is the end of school, and we also chatted about trying to get to know the officials of these small communities a little bit better than we do, insofar as maybe we could invite the mayors of North Home, Misbah, Big Falls, North Home, maybe once a month or just now and then, so we can sit down and they can get to know us and we can get to know more about their communities. I don't know what else we chatted about, Paul, but we're trying to get a little bit bigger, and we're still working with Lake of the Woods County, trying to find some project that may be beneficial to both, whether it be through agriculture or through their pharmaceuticals. So we're hoping that kind of moves on a little bit too. We met with their economic developer that is out of Bemidji at what's the agency called?
It's their regional development, Headwaters Regional
Yeah,
Development.
and so Lake of the Woods employs them. So we've met, and our next goal is just to sit down and do it again as soon as the weather cooperates.
I would add that there's already some cooperation. I'm on the solid waste committee for the county, and Lake of the Woods they're going to close their demolition landfill, and they've approached Cooch about bringing their demolition over here. And I think it's going to go before the county board, but there was consensus that we have enough life cycle in ours, and their volume won't, But that's a good start for cooperation too. We get some revenue from them, and plus they had some ideas about sharing some. They went over the solid waste folks went over there and toured their facility, and so yeah, those are all. I think just by virtue of how small we're getting, that we got to be smart and look to areas where you can participate like that.
Any questions of citizens? Thank you. We'll move on to the county.
Our visitor and travel bureau has been doing very good and has lots of good ads going out. This spring they were on had ads going through the Minnesota State High School hockey tournament.
Rainy Lake.
Yeah, Rainy Lake. And they are doing a good job of promoting our area, and I'm sure this weekend really helped out too with all the folks in town. Our big hockey tournament for the year, I guess. I don't know, other than that, some trails. We got some more
working on ATV trails with ATV Joint Powers, trying to get funding to finish up the Blue Ox or get over to the Blue Ox Trail. So we got it figured out where we can get all the way to Ericsburg, Rogers Corner area, and then from there to International Falls. We got to figure out the route to get from there to the Blue Ox Trail. So we're working on trying to get that connection so we can get a round trip for all the way from Duluth. They'll be able to come all the way up through International Falls, back to Bemidji, through Grand Rapids, and anywhere in between from there with all the county roads and trails that branch off from all the major trails that we've already got.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Any questions of the commissioners? All right, we'll move on to the city. Mayor Dale.
We have a city council meeting tonight at 5:30 for anyone who would like to attend. Who won the hockey tournament this
I do not know.
Okay.
I wasn't down and around it this weekend, but I did see a lot of cars at both rinks
I did too.
during the day. I did not make it down there. Myself and I didn't get to talk to the mayor, but I see him at the Senator Hochschild was here yesterday and they had a town hall meeting. So some people in attendance bring their concerns. A lot of them stem towards what's happening with the federal government, what's going on right now, and what we can do about that. But but there was. But then I'd like to give a shout out. Speaking of the hockey tournament, they weren't sure they would be able to get it done or get a hold of somebody. But once again, the big compressor at Cary Park went down, but they managed to get it going and fixed and got a guy here to get the parts. They figured they probably would have made it anyhow, but it was a little worrisome when it was, pushing into the 60 degrees at Cary Park. So a fine job by the rink staff and Public Works to get that going. Then we talked about the open house we had for the housing, and we also last Thursday had an open house about rehabbing the water plant, which we had a few people attend. There'll be more discussion about that. And we have hopefully a bonding bill going through the process, I believe, to help with that coming. And I believe, are you going down to?
I think I'm going 25th tentatively. I had lunch with Senator Hochschild before the town hall yesterday, and so we discussed that. And if there's, I think is what it'll come down to is whether there's a bonding bill or not. If there's a bonding bill, I have no doubt, especially for something as simple as water and important, that we'll get a shot out of it. We have the $1 million. We'll be discussing this today at the city council meeting for the design of Cary Park, which could play into that a little bit with the water treatment plant. So, and there's, I think, some long-term things that'll probably be discussed in the future regarding the treatment plant as well. Then for the city going into summer, we'll get to talk about it more, but hopefully some reconstruction of roads and overlays, and keep chipping away at that as the sales and use tax fund allows.
Yeah.
So.
And speaking of summer, if anybody has a child or a young person, anybody they know, 17 or older, we're looking for summer maintenance staff at the city.
Any questions?
I just want to highlight, that hockey tournament started out as a very small affair. It was actually just a bunch of friends got together and started out very modestly, and now it's got 24 teams. And I attended the Cary Park in Bronco throughout the weekend, and it brings a lot of people to town, and a lot of people put it on their calendar. They'll be back next year, and they bring their families, and now there's generational. Kids are playing, and it's just a good event. And I think it at a time, March, it's quiet and still winter out, and it brings, it's for the businesses in town and the area. I think it's really I think everybody sees the advantages of having these kind of events like the Bass Tournament. And so, applaud the city for working with this group, and it's a volunteer group. I was on there for many years, and it's fun to see all these people return, and everybody's getting older. it's
not as many in the open division anymore as compared to the 50 and 60.
But then it's fun to talk to a lot of the younger folks that really enjoy coming up here, and it doesn't matter the weather; they have a great time, and like I said, they put it on their calendars. So
and I know people that, a good friend of mine from high school flew from Colorado. Play him and his buddies. I don't think any of them ever played hockey. Maybe a couple of them, but they got their team together. I know somebody flew in, could go 2 places. And he chose to come here for the hockey tournament from Alaska. Then I see some of them where I get to see some of my old Pee Wee players / when I used to be the noon lady. Now they're in the, 40 and up division, starts aging the guy a little bit, but that's good.
All right. Thank you. Representative Scraba, do you have any news from the state legislature?
Well, I got all kinds of news. Today at 3:30 we gavel in for session, and I'm going to present the North Koochiching County sanitary district change. We're changing the makeup of the board because there's no South International Falls, there's no paper makers, none of that. So I brought it through the committee the last month, and now it's going to be heard on the House floor. It's about a non-controversial and non-political issue I'm also bringing Crane Lake change of
Jason
the
and I
board
were
of
talking about
wastewater from 5 to 3, the same kind of bill, just non-political, non-controversial. So if that makes it through, woohoo, maybe the legislature has hope, but if it gets blocked, for whatever reasons it get blocked, you can just start buckling your shoes. As far as a bonding bill, we feel pretty confident we're going to get a bonding bill. Although there is the fact that there's a $6 billion deficit coming, there's a lot of legislatures that are like, why are we spending money we don't have and we can't pay back? So there's going to be some discussion. We think we have, I'm one that's, regardless of how far in the hole we are, we still need to fix the stuff that's out there. And we just got it. We have to keep going on these, find money to cut in other areas if that's what we need to do. So I'm going to be pushing for a bonding bill between Grant or I, whichever one of us decides to carry the I Falls wastewater water treatment. It'll be on one of our lists. So which one, we haven't decided yet. To kind of get back to just a little thing that Pete said, we're all kind of waiting to see what Trump does. It's every administration does it. When Biden got in there, inflation went through the roof and everything got cost prohibitive. And how do you fix that? You don't. You just ride it out like everything else. And so this is what the people voted for. This is what we get. That's just the way it works in our country. So you can scream and cry and kick and do all you want. It's not going to change Washington. Washington is pretty tough to change. The only thing we can do is try to get more out of it than the other guy. So, and we're working on that. Locally down here, I would say the only bills that are going to make it through bonding are water and wastewater. If you have a Cary Park, it ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Those kind of projects down here, we're not even hearing them. I'm on capital investments. I had the closest thing to a park. Mary, the chair, let me present Little Forks RV park, ATV RV park, and she said, Grandma, how do you get to bring this here when all we're hearing is water? I go, well, we are putting in new water and new septic systems for this, so that's water, wastewater, right? So, and we'll see how that goes. But it's going to get tight down here. Just remember, and the governor right now has kicked $239 million of what the state normally paid back to, or $439 million. I'm sorry, I overspoke. $439 million back to the county. So the counties are going to be responsible for what the state used to do. So, and then the paid family leave, when that great thing for all the employees and this great vision, the county taxes are going to go up, the city taxes are going to go up, the school district's taxes are going to go up, and where there are townships, their taxes are going to go up, because they have to pay for all of that. Somebody has to pay for it. So prepare yourself. Just ask the questions. Don't sit there and just say, oh, look how great this is. 12 weeks off. Imagine the employee sitting right or left of you that works for the city or county and says, yeah, my uncle's sick. I need 12 weeks off. And they're gone. Well, who's going to drive the plow truck? Who's going to drive the truck? And you can't get rid of them. You have to take them back. And it's just rife for fraud that's going to come from it. And I'm not a fan of it. It's pretty obvious. We need at least a year to get this thing back, to figure out how it's going to work, to modify it. I support the employee part. That's a great thing, you know. But why the state of Minnesota is becoming an insurance company? There's plenty of insurance companies you can buy this unemployment insurance with, and sick time insurance with. That's what we could do. We could institute that, and it's a better idea. It's less money. It still has the same effect. So we'll see where it goes. I think we'll start seeing the price tag of what it's all about. It's going to open people's eyes, especially when you tell them your property taxes are going up because of it. But the hard part is, who is going to replace the workers that leave? We already have a shortage of workers. There's no question about that. But take the workers that are working and they have a golden opportunity to take a paid holiday. Who wouldn't? So anyway, sorry about the doom and gloom. Positive stuff. Hopefully, if my bills, 2 bills today, if they pass the legislature, it shows that both sides still like each other and we're working together. If my bills don't pass today, I think there's a lot of things that are going to go wrong next year. And I say that cautiously. There's no reason for them not to pass, but who knows? What other projects do you guys have going? Oh, I did talk to some people about the end of school, what's going on, the whole school district, splitting the district, doing whatever needs to happen. And I think Drake observance of what's happening. Are there enough students to keep Northholm going? Or is Northholm going to have to go over to Black Duck? And then if that's true, then what do we do? So there's a lot of introspective what we need to be looking at here, because we have a $6 billion deficit coming. I can tell you there's not going to be someone riding in with a white horse and a bag of money and say, hey, do whatever you want in your school districts. That's just not going to happen right now. You guys talked about the DNR trying to say, hey, go ahead and fill those wetlands in. Yeah. That's close to next to impossible. They won't even let us pick mushrooms right now, let alone fill the wetland in. Hopefully someone will see that, and the wetland credits. You guys, the county, should be looking at how to create wetland credits, so you don't have to pay $90,000 an acre. If you can go out and create wetland credits in your county now, you would be way better off, because there is not a cheap wetland credit. There's no such thing as a cheap, non-expensive wetland credit. It just doesn't exist. So I don't know what else. You guys got any questions for me?
Roger, our representative, is there also going to be a bill in about some exclusions for local, like International Falls has the local option sales and use for its roads and some infrastructure, but was there going to be a bill in that takes some of that authority and allows it to dodge the legislature, and then a local community can enact it on a majority vote for certain projects?
There was talk about doing that. Now that we're tied, obviously Aisha, the Democratic co-chair of taxes, she's not a big fan of that. He's concerned. So I don't know that there's a Democrat vote that would make it, because one thing the DFL is they're very loyal to their tax share. So if Representative Gomez says no, then that's no. But someone can lobby that, your city lobbyist. That's something your lobbyists can go out and find that answer and poke around and see what the flavor is for that. It's again, $6 billion in 2 years, and that's not going away. That's real. And to spend money before that is going to be, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard trying to find people that want to spend money knowing that's going to happen. So to answer your question, and basically bypassing the state, other states do that, Wyoming and that do that. The problem is you create winners and losers. Those of us that are fools that we so, and that would share.
All right.
If you have a lot, give it to the other people. So, anyway, any other questions?
Thank you, Representative Straba. We appreciate your attendance and your
Thank
update.
you. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Are you guys continuing on after this meeting?
Yes, we're going to do strategic planning after this meeting.
Okay, that's what I thought. Well, I'll try to hang on as long as I can.
All right. Thank you. Randy, Don, thank you for joining us. Laurel, thank you for joining us. I don't think there's any other questions except to set the meeting date for the next meeting. If we, normally we've been meeting on Wednesdays, I believe, the third Wednesday, which would be April 16th.
Too early?
Does that work for people?
I believe it's a little early. We won't have a lot of our bills at that point.
It's what?
It's too early for our bills.
If we can move it to the 23rd, that would be better.
Well,
What's too early?
For the bills, we won't have all the bills in by the 16th.
Oh,
if we can
oh,
move it
I
to the
see.
23rd.
All right. So,
23rd.
with the next Wednesday, how does that look? 23rd. Well, I won't be here, but
Me either. I got two meetings that day.
how about the 30th?
is that airport?
It is, but.
Okay. Any other day? Monday the 21st? Does that work?
That worked for me.
Works for me.
All right.
Yeah.
10 a.m.
21, key to 10 o'clock. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your attendance. The meeting's adjourned.